started as a joke, a dumb, impulsive joke that spiraled into the kind of life-altering moment you only hear about in those insane tabloid feeds between human marries moon rock and Martian goat runs for mayor. But this time, it was real. And it was all my fault. Ask her to prom, I dare you, Kyle had snickered, elbows nudging into my ribs like we were 12 again, not grown men standing in the living room of a galactic ambassador's quarters. And there she was, Luli, my mom's friend from the Zarellan Consortium. 10 feet tall if you counted the arch of her twin fins, skin a silky sheen of indigo and obsidian that shimmered in the room's soft light. She was beautiful in the kind of way humans weren't built to process, her eyes like polished moons, her movements so precise they could cut through reality. She'd saved my mom's life during the Scythrax riots 5 years ago. Since then, she'd made Earth her second home. So when she showed up at our house for diplomatic talks, I never expected the night to end with her at prom. Ambassador Luli, I had stammered, palms sweating despite the sleek black suit that clung too tight to my shoulders. I was wondering if you'd, attend the local human mating ritual with me. For research. She tilted her head, a slow, deliberate gesture. Prom? I nodded, already regretting everything. She blinked once, then smiled. I accept. By the time we walked into Silver Ridge High's neon-lit gymnasium, every phone in the city was pointed at her. Some kids ran, others bowed, one dude fainted. I didn't blame them. She wore a simple metallic wrap that shifted hues with every breath she took. Deep purple, sea green, cosmic silver, and heels. Why in the name of Mars did she wear heels when she could crush a ground vehicle barefoot? But Luli wasn't just alien. She was confident, graceful, charming. While I spent the night dying inside from 1,000 awkward glances, she danced like the galaxy owed her a stage. She didn't just win prom queen, she redefined it. Then came the kiss. I swear I didn't mean to. It was after the dance, under the stars on the school balcony. She leaned in just a fraction and whispered, "You are fascinating, Leor." My name sounded different in her voice. Richer, heavier. Like a promise. And I kissed her. I didn't think it would go beyond that. Honestly, I assumed I'd wake up the next day and chalk it up to teenage hormones and interspecies diplomacy gone rogue. Except 3 weeks later, Luli showed up at our door. And she was glowing. Not metaphorically, literally glowing. My body has begun gestation, she said calmly. Leor, I am with child. Yours. My mother dropped her glass. Kyle stopped chewing mid-chip, and I passed out. When I came to, Luli was holding a cold compress to my forehead and explaining how apparently Zarellans don't reproduce easily with outsiders. Their physiology requires perfect biosynchronicity, something supposedly impossible with humans. But somehow, with me, her body reacted instantly. Gestation was not just occurring, it was thriving. We must go to the council, she said. This is unprecedented. It may change diplomatic law. What she didn't say, but what her eyes told me loud and clear, this wasn't just biology. Something else happened that night. Something deeper than species and rules and consular boundaries. I stared at her, at the impossibly strong alien woman sitting calmly in my kitchen, holding her glowing belly with a protective hand. So, what happens now? I whispered. Her answer? Just 3 words. You protect us. And I didn't know how, but I knew I would, even if it meant standing between her and the universe. If you're ready to die... The Zarellan Council wasn't built for chaos, but that's exactly what Luli and I walked into. The Grand Chamber floated above the stratosphere, in a station made of obsidian, crystal, and gravity-defying arrogance. We passed rows of warriors, diplomats, and scholars, all dressed in elegant, dark orange robes. They stared at us with wide, unblinking eyes. Not at Luli, she was revered. But me? A 20-year-old human with a half-buttoned jacket and no idea what intergalactic protocol even looked like? I was the anomaly, the offense, the ticking bomb. Luli's fingers brushed mine as we reached the center platform. That simple touch made everything around me blur for a moment. Her warmth was grounding. Her calm, unshaken presence made me feel stronger than I was. The High Speaker rose. "Ambassador Luli, you arrive with a human male," he said with disdain coating every syllable. Luli bowed slightly, dignified, poised. "I do. This is Lior Talin of Earth. He is the father of my child." A ripple of gasps echoed through the room like shrapnel. "She lies!" one elder hissed. "She's compromised!" shouted another. "No Zyrellan could procreate with a human!" barked the genetic archivist. And just like that, the room exploded into argument, everyone speaking over each other in their melodic, sharp-edged language. Some called for testing. Others demanded exile. Luli stood her ground, her hand resting gently on her stomach. The golden-orange fabric of her ceremonial gown fluttered around her like flame. And I realized this wasn't just a diplomatic scandal. This was sacrilege. Her pregnancy had shattered laws, biology, pride. They didn't want answers. They wanted blood. "Enough!" Luli's voice boomed, amplified by the council's own system. Silence fell like a blade. She turned to me. "Lior, tell them what you saw. Tell them what you felt." I stepped forward. Every eye burned into me. "I didn't plan this," I started, heart pounding. "None of it. I asked her to prom as a joke, a dare. I thought she'd laugh. Instead, she said yes." Whispers again. "I didn't expect to fall for her, but I did. Not because she's an alien, but because she listens. She moves like she belongs in every place at once, but always makes you feel like you're the center. She's the strongest person I've ever met. But when she smiled at me, I felt seen. Not like a human, just me." A pause. "Then she kissed me. I didn't ask for this child, but now I'd fight for them. I'd raise them, protect them. And if that makes me dangerous, then so be it." The silence stretched on for several breaths. Then the High Speaker lifted a crystalline rod and struck it against the dais. "Human emotion," he spat. "Dramatic, weak." "Wrong," another voice echoed from the shadows. A female figure emerged. Regent Solessa, one of the rare warrior mothers of the Zerellan army. Her gaze was hard as diamond. "I've seen his type before. They fight to the death over something as small as love. You want loyalty? Humans bleed for it." More murmurs. Shifting tides. The speaker scowled. "Regardless, the child is an unknown. It must be tested. Separated." "No," Luli said coldly. "I beg your pardon." "You will not touch my child," she said. "Not while I breathe." A hum filled the air, low, building. From beneath her skin, glowing lines of energy began to rise, curling up her arms and down her neck. Every Zerellan recognized it instantly. Battle form. Guards stepped forward. And I stepped in front of her. "She's not alone," I said. "You'll have to go through me too." The council stared. Two figures, one alien, one human, both willing to burn everything for a child that shouldn't exist. That's when the council did something unexpected. They laughed. Cold, cruel, measured. "You're not the first to fight fate," the speaker said, "but you may be the last." Then the floor beneath us opened, and we fell. The holding cell was a suspended cube of transparent steel, drifting over a ravine on the dark side of the moon station. Luli's glow dimmed as her energy receded, exhaustion settling in. "We can't fight them all," I said quietly. She leaned against me. "Not yet." "You had that planned?" I hoped it wouldn't come to this. "What happens now?" Her eyes turned to mine, fierce and brilliant. "We escape. We find allies. We protect our child. Because if the Council fears what we made, then maybe it's exactly what the galaxy needs." Outside, shadows moved. Footsteps. Energy pulses. Trouble was coming. But I wasn't the same guy who made a joke promposal weeks ago. Now, I was the father of a child. Snow and starlight swirled outside the walls of the detention transport as it roared across the dark edge of the Zerellan moon. Luli sat beside me, her arms wrapped tightly around her stomach, her breathing steady but tense. I could feel her fear masked behind that regal strength she always carried. But I knew her now. Every flicker of her gaze, every tightened muscle. She was preparing for war. "We'll be transferred to a genetics vault," she whispered. "And they'll try to extract the child. Alive or not." "No," I said, my voice barely holding back the rage. "They won't touch either of you. They will, unless we strike first." I glanced around the transport chamber. 2 guards in obsidian armor flanked the door. Another one watched us through a pulse shield. Above us, the control deck buzzed with soft activity, unaware that the woman they were transporting had once leveled an entire rebel fleet with her bare hands. "What's the plan?" I asked, inching closer. She didn't answer. Instead, she moved her fingers slowly toward her neck, where a sliver of metallic fabric was woven into her ceremonial gown. "Your jumpsuit?" I realized. "It's woven with compressed plasma filaments," she replied calmly. "I just needed it near energy." As the transport dipped into orbit's shadow, the air shifted. Luli's hair floated gently, as if gravity hesitated to hold her down. Her skin shimmered like liquid fire. And then the lights flickered. The guards looked up. Too late. Luli erupted from her seat, her hands snapping out like a whip. A beam of searing white light cut through the shield, slicing the first guard's weapon in half. He barely had time to scream before he crumpled. The second reached for his comm. I leapt, tackling him into the side panel, slamming my elbow into his visor. He groaned, then fell silent. My hands were shaking, adrenaline crashing through me. "That was fast," I gasped. Luli was already pulling open the emergency hatch controls. "Nice tackle," she muttered with a half-smile. We burst through the transport bay doors, alarms blaring in our wake. Emergency klaxons shrieked. A mechanized voice shouted, "Protocol breach! Hostile escape in progress!" We ran. Down a corridor of starlit glass, over high-altitude rail lifts, past startled diplomats and warriors who shouted in shock or ducked out of our way. My lungs burned. Luli barely seemed winded. She stopped only once, to place a glowing sigil against the wall. "What is that?" I asked. "A friend." The panel hissed open. Inside, waiting in the shadows, was a woman with midnight blue skin and silver tattoos that moved like mist over her arms. "Luli," she said coldly, "you're late. Karis, meet Lior." Karis raised an eyebrow. "This is the human?" "Yeah," I panted. "The one who got her pregnant. Sorry if that complicates things." Karis gave the faintest of smirks. "Complications are what I live for." Within seconds, she led us into a hidden launch bay, where an old smuggler ship sat idling, its hull scarred, its power core thrumming with concealed firepower. "We head to the rebel sector," Karis said. "They've been watching the council crumble for years. Your child might be the spark they've been waiting for." "And the council?" I asked. "They'll send assassins, hunters, biotrackers." Luli's voice was steel. "Let them come." Karis piloted the vessel into the abyss of the outer belt. I sat beside Luli, wiping blood from my knuckles, still trembling from the fight. She placed her hand on mine. "You're still with me?" she asked softly. I turned to her. "Luli, I didn't run when I found out you were an alien diplomat, or when we were thrown in a cell, or when you took out 2 armored guards with your glowing scarf." She laughed quietly. I leaned closer. "I'm with you, always." She rested her head on my shoulder. "You're not just a joke prom date anymore." "Good," I whispered, "because I want to see our kid grow up. I want to teach them how to ride bikes, or float through anti-grav, or whatever the Zerlin version of both is. You want to raise them?" "Of course, together, if you'll have me." She looked up. "I already do." The ship jolted hard as a blast rocked the starboard side, sending sparks cascading through the dim interior like falling stars. Luli clutched her belly instinctively, eyes sharp. Karis gripped the controls with a snarl. They found us. A swarm of sleek Altari Council fighters closed in on the radar, shimmering like obsidian shards in the black. Their weapons hummed with deadly precision. The rebel smuggler vessel had speed, but not power. We were outgunned, outnumbered. "Evasive Protocol Echo 7, Karis hissed, and the ship veered sharply, dodging the first volley by inches. "I thought we had time," I said, helping Luli brace against the flickering wall. My voice wavered with fear, but I kept steady. I had to. "We had minutes. They're better at tracking genetics than politics," Luli said, "and they're scared of what our child means." Another hit slammed the side. Warning lights bathed the interior red. "This ship won't hold," Karis snapped. "We need to drop and run." "Drop where?" I asked. "There's a moon below, Verdax 9, forest moon full of predators, but we'll lose them in the trees." I didn't like the sound of that. Still, we had no choice. Karis angled the ship sharply and we began the descent. Enemy fire licked across the hull, but the moon's gravity gripped us like a claw, dragging us into a stormy cloud layer. The crash wasn't elegant. The ship smashed into the jungle canopy, tearing through foliage and thick branches until it slammed into a riverbed with a scream of metal. I woke to smoke, pain in my ribs, Luli's voice calling my name. "Lior! Lior, wake up!" I opened my eyes. Her hands were on my face, glowing faintly with healing energy, a gift of her people. Her face was dirt-smeared, but radiant with relief. "You're alive," she whispered. "Barely," I groaned, "but I'm not going anywhere." Blaster fire cracked in the distance. The Altari had followed. Karis limped toward us, tossing me a rifle. "No time to recover. They'll be here in minutes." We ran through the forest, dense, humid, alive with alien sounds. Trees curved like serpent spines, and the air shimmered with bioelectric spores. Luli guided us with a warrior's focus, even while protecting her belly. We reached a rocky cliffside. A cave gaped ahead. "In there," she said. Karis set up a remote charge behind us. "We'll buy time." The moment we entered the cavern, everything changed. Glowing vines pulsed on the walls. The cave responded to Luli's presence, lighting her path, humming with recognition. "This is ancestral," she whispered. "This place, it knew me." "That's comforting," I muttered, setting up defensive traps. "Hope it likes humans, too." Luli turned, touching my chest. "It does. It senses the bond." Outside, the explosion shook the ground. Screams followed. They were close. Luli stood. I staggered back. "Luli, what are you—" "She's activating the root core," Karis said in awe. "It's been dormant since the last Bloodborn." Bloodborn? Children born of cross-galactic union. A myth. A threat to the Council's purity doctrine. They thought it impossible. The glow from Luli's body flared, then spread into the cave, up the walls, through the jungle itself. The trees outside responded. They twisted, moved, shaping into a wall. The Altari soldiers stormed the ridge, but stopped short. The jungle itself moved to block them. "I told you," Luli said, panting. "They're scared, because life has chosen change." The soldiers opened fire, but the forest bent. Shields of vine and bark and pulsing light absorbed the energy. I stepped forward, rifle raised beside Karis. "We don't run anymore," I said. Together we fought. Holding the line with ancient power and human grit, Karis took out 3 with sniper precision. I tackled one over a ledge, disarming him mid-fall. Luli fought like a storm, unarmed but invincible. Her energy flared with every motion. And then silence. The last of them retreated. Smoke rose. The jungle still crackled with energy. We stood together in the cave mouth, the stars peeking through the shattered canopy. "We did it," I whispered. Luli leaned into me, exhausted but alive. "You still want this?" she asked. "This life, me, our child, the battles." I kissed her, slow and sure. "More than anything." She smiled. "Then let's not hide anymore. Let's lead." In the days that followed, rebels found us. The legend of the human who protected the pregnant diplomat, the forest that bent for love, the child who would change the stars. We weren't fugitives anymore. We were founders. Founders of a new world where blood didn't define worth, and where love was the most dangerous, beautiful force in the galaxy.